It is finally here. I've been waiting to do a tier list on Gigantic Rampage Edition for a long time, but I wanted to play for a while before I decided to put my input. So I played tons of games. You're gonna have some gameplay coming soon, so I mean subscribe if you want to see that. But let's just hop into it. Now this is my personal tier list on what I think about the characters. Let me know in the comments what you think, but this is gonna be based off my experience in playing. There are a few factors that I want to pay attention to when doing this. So we're gonna be talking about the ease of use. Is the character easy to use? We're also going to talk about the straightforwardness of the character. Some characters are very straightforward while others require a little bit of finesse to use. Then we'll also be talking about the overall viability, just how the character works in certain settings such as Rush and Clash. It is not just about damage here. We are doing a tier list as a whole, a collective of everything. So let's hop into it. So the first character on our chopping block is Beckett. Now Beckett is one of those characters that are very good in theory, they're good on paper, but realistically, they're kind of held back by a few things. One of Beckett's drawbacks is the fact that when she goes in flight, it still costs stamina to run. I feel like if they buffed her and made it not cost stamina to sprint and stuff, at least while you're in the air, it would make her a much more viable choice, or lower the cooldown of the jetpack so they can use it more often. That's just one of the things I thought about with playing Beckett. The other thing is that you can miss a lot of your shots, which in turn would make it so you do less damage. Let me put this into perspective. So let's just say you have a machine gun. You have 100 bullets. If you spray and hold it and the character keeps moving, maybe you land about 20 of them. Yes, your damage output is high for 100 bullets, but you're not landing all 100. That's Beckett. Even when she uses burst fire, again, you have a chance to miss the spread of the burst fire. So she has a couple of issues. When we're talking about her grenade launcher, it's actually really cool. The way you play Beckett successfully is going to be you swapping between weapons back and forth, knowing when to do it and when not to do it. And it's just a lot to her for the amount of stuff that she gets, which is really negligible. So I think if anything, maybe lower the cooldown of the jetpack, or at least make it so that it doesn't cost stamina. That would be a good step in the right direction. But I do feel like Beckett needs some type of buff because she, I feel, is very lackluster in terms of all her other DPS counterparts. So I'm gonna say we're gonna put her at B. You know, she can work, but she's not the best, but she's not the worst. You know, it's not bad, but it's not great. So we're gonna put her at B. The next character that we have is Aisling. Now, she is a crazy character. This character kind of has it all. She's relatively tanky. She has the ability to summon a minion and basically fight for her. She could fight at range. I think one of the main issues that I have with this character is that she's very versatile for the type of leeway that this character has. She's very easy to use, don't get me wrong, but with that ease of use, she has a lot of power. Now you could be a very good Aisling and you could do a lot and you can be really explosive, but for the most part, it doesn't require that much work to do what she needs to do. And I feel like you shouldn't have so much power with lack of effort. And if you don't know what she does, she can do damage or she can buff her team. And it's very easy to buff her team. It's very easy to shield her team. It's very easy to buff her, shield her, heal teammates. It's a little bit ridiculous, honestly. And so with that, I mean, it's not really much to say. She just deserves to be an S. I feel like she needs a nerf in some of the categories, whether it be a nerf to the support, whether it be a nerf to damage, whether it be a longer cooldown time if you blow up the minion that she pops out because she's not paying attention, like whatever. There needs to be something to make it so that she can't do what she wants to do repeatedly, because eventually it just gets to be unfair. Now you can't say pop in, there are characters that have armor piercing or AoE, which means that it goes through the minion and hits Aisling, or you know, the AoE then can also hit Aisling. But the issue is she doesn't have to be that close to use the minion, in which case you're probably not going to hit her. That's kind of my thing. I also think it should only attack when she attacks, because you could technically put it down and it'll auto attack anything in the vicinity. I don't think that should be a thing either. She should be basically telling it to go do it, and maybe give her another button to do it. Maybe have it not attack unless she hits it. I don't know. She has to continuously attack it, otherwise the minion stops. Like, I don't know. It needs to be something. But right now she's a little bit overloaded, and she's almost in every match. And if you don't take her in your match, take her, especially when ranked drops. We don't know what the patch notes are going to look like for ranked, but when it drops, that needs to be a character in every single match that you have. The next character we have is Charnok. Now Charnok's a little special. A little special place in my heart for some Charnok. So Charnok is like the typical mage of the game. Fire bolts, meteor drops, whatever. Typical battle mage of the game. Charnok is actually really strong, but not blindly strong. And so what I mean is, like, you still have to know what you're doing to pop the damage off. It isn't just there. His range is ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie, that man range is far. But again, it's very easy to play him wrong, and it's very easy to not pump out as much damage as you possibly could. He is a character that requires you to understand when to use what ability and why, and he's very good. It's a very well-designed character for sure, and I think they did a great job on him. With that being said, I'm gonna put him at A. I would put him at S if you're a good player at Charnok, and I'd put him at B if you're a bad player at Charnok. But if you're an average Charnok player, he's definitely A, but he has potential to just straight up be an S if you're good at the character. He's really solid in my opinion. The next character we have is Griselma. Oh, Griselma. This character is also a special place in my heart. Really, she's actually a really cool character. So, if you don't know what Griselma does, she puts stuff on the ground, basically summons minions, kind of like Iceling, but multiple of them, and they shoot, and they basically go invisible until they get close to someone, and they pop out and hit again. If you've ever played League of Legends, she's basically Heimerdinger. And in that sense, you put down turrets and, you know, it does the job for you. Now, she's actually has a great kit as well. And that's one thing I really like about Gigantic is all the characters kind of have multiple ways to play. They're not just that one character, that one thing. They have multiple ways to play to benefit each situation, which I just love about Gigantic in general. That's what I like about Pokemon Unite as well. The ability to like really spread out your build to fit the situation. But basically, that's her thing. Puts down those little turrets and they hit people. That's pretty much all you need to know. The thing about her is that a good one is insane. A average and bad one is pretty awful. And so with that, I'm gonna put her at B. She has potential, but you're gonna have to learn how to use her. And that's one of the things that makes her difficult to master. I'm kind of hesitant, really. Thing about it is she's not straightforward either. You don't just put things down and it works. She requires some knowledge because they can destroy it and stuff. Ooh, that's rough, dude. She's so good, but she's so confusing unless you know what you're doing. I'm gonna put her at C. For now, I'm gonna put her at C for now. We're gonna see if we change anything. But the reason being is, like I said, an average Griselma and a mediocre Griselma, they gonna probably cost your team the game. They really do have to be good players. If you are good with Griselma, I think she deserves to be higher. But again, we're talking about the overall majority. We're talking about the average. We're not talking about the pro players or anything. We're talking about the average player base playing that character and what that character brings to the table. She's great, but you're gonna have to know what you're doing, especially in Clash. So again, I think she deserves a C. The next character that we have is Imani. Now, Imani, I actually really like her. She is a character that's very, very straightforward, but she's very hard to use. And I think that's kind of hard to find in most games, a easy character that is actually hard to use. That is not common. But if you don't know what Imani does, is she's a sniper. Point blank period. That character is a sniper. And you know, one of the main things about snipers is they are hard because you need to land your shots. It's not necessarily hard to land shots in this game. And on top of that, headshots don't do extra damage. So you can really just aim for the body and do your job. The problem is some of these maps, especially on Clash, makes it very hard for you to have a vantage point. And I don't know if that's intentional, even though it's not a bad thing, obviously. There definitely should be maps designed for you to be able to get to a sniper and so they can't camp, because her range is very long. But I also think there are some maps that do allow her to camp. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds there. But really, if you're looking for an Imani, or if you play Imani, she's actually very good. Her damage is through the roof. She's insane of a character. You just have to play her well. And so I'm actually going to put her on B above Griselma. Now you might be thinking, well, why above Griselma? Griselma's hard to play, but you say that she's C. The thing with Imani is she's straightforward. She's not hard to play in terms of how she functions. You just click the button, she snipes, job done. There's more to her to be good at that character, but at the basic level, it's not really hard to understand. Smokescreen, snipe, an empowered shot, just call it a day. You know what I mean? So with that in mind, I think that she deserves to be higher. And if you play her well, she's A. If you play her average, she's B. And if you play her horribly, she's C. And so I think B is a very good spot there. She really can't be considered A in my opinion because she's not outright that strong if you don't land your shots. And then she definitely can't be considered S because, again, I mean, I don't even think she's S material. So with that in mind, she doesn't have enough tools to be S. So with that in mind, that's where I think she should be. Now this one's interesting because I've ran into a lot of good Lord Nox players, but I've also, you know, ran into a lot of not so good Lord Nox players. And playing Lord Nox myself, I definitely see the potential in this character. Lord Nox is one of those characters where it's like you kind of have to play them a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. He's kind of straightforward, don't get me wrong, but the thing is, it's weird because a lot of these characters, they're designed to be good if you're good, but they're not really designed to work if you're average. And I feel like Lord Nox is that way. Lord Nox is actually pretty straightforward, but you do have to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think Lord Nox probably deserves to be at A. He's very good at tanking. He's very good at damage. It's just, I don't think he has enough tools for an average player to pop it to S. You know what I mean? Ashling is just very easy to play. Like there's, you know, put the minion down, go, right? Well, with Lord Nox, you have to get close. With Lord Nox, you have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. He has limited range. So there's buffs that require specific timing. And so with him, I definitely think that it deserves to be an A rather than S because of that mechanic of being difficult. But I think a good Lord Nox makes that character A, like easy. An average is, or S, I'm sorry. And then an average character just, or an average player just makes him A. And if you're under, then you're probably going to be a B. So I think A is a pretty good middle ground for all those types of players for sure. The next character we have is Margrave. Character's S, nothing to even say about it. The character's busted. He has a lot of damage. He has a lot of mobility. He is very hard to get away from. He's very hard to avoid. He can deflect. He can tank. The character's like overloaded, to be honest with you. And the thing about Aisling and the Margrave is that Aisling is like overloaded to the point where we need to fix her, right? Whereas the Margrave is not really overloaded in needing a fix. It's kind of like in a good way overloaded. I don't really know how to make that make sense, but it's like, it's not necessarily a bad thing that character is that strong, considering there needs to be a tank that actually is that easy to play and very strong, because this allows players that don't really play tanks or might not know what they're doing to be able to enjoy the role without feeling like they're flustered or frustrated because they explode. So in that regard, yes, he's easy to play. Yes, he's mega strong, but I really don't think he needs a nerf in any direction because that's kind of the design, you know? And I actually like that about him, but Aisling's busted. Please nerf that character. The next character we have is Mozu. Now, if you haven't seen the 8 best characters to play, Mozu's just busted. No, but Mozu is insane. I don't think Mozu deserves an S, but I definitely think she's probably, oof, where would Mozu be? That's rough. I'm gonna just put her behind, only because she's a little bit harder. But with Mozu, very easy to play, but if you're a good Mozu, this character is like cracked, like beyond cracked. The character is really good, but in a way that seems a little bit balanced. It's not in a way that seems like, oh, you need a nerf good. Again, it's kind of like along the lines of the Margrave. If you're an average Mozu, it's not going to be that powerful. If you're good with Mozu, it's powerful. That's how most characters should be. They shouldn't just give you a whole bunch of strength for no reason. And if you put a ton of work into them, they shouldn't be lackluster. So Mozu is kind of like a balance between that, a character that really just gives you as much as you put in. And I really like that. There should be a character like that for every game. And honestly, this game has a few. So yeah, I definitely think Mozu deserves to be an A. Next we have is Oru. Oru is S, and not in a good way. Oru is broken. Oru is not as broken as Aisling, again, because Aisling doesn't even have to be part of the battle, basically. But Oru is beyond busted right now, and I think this character needs a drop in damage numbers, or honestly, I think they should take the Mozu approach. And by that, I mean, the kid is actually cool. I don't know if you know, but this character, the kid is insane. Like, all his abilities go together, and it's insane. It's a really cool like kit. But the problem is you don't need to do it to be strong. That's a problem. I feel like they should tweak it in a way where like all the power is behind doing what he wants to do as that character, and then you're rewarded. So like he has a thing where you burn off of every auto attack. Well, how about making an ability that gives you the burn passive for a duration if you put the 2 cards together or something like that? You know, like he's overloaded in a bad way. if they could really put a lot of his damage behind using the kit properly, this character would be the coolest character in the game, hands down. I think he's already really cool. But with the fact that, again, you don't really need to do anything. You could be kind of just a bad Oru and still pump out tons and tons and tons of damage and tons of utility, and it's just insane. It needs to be behind the kit of playing around his cards. If they could pull that off, I think Oru would be in a very, very cool spot. The next character that we have is Pakko. Now, Pakko, Pakko is one of my favorite tanks in the game. It's just a really cool character. It's one of those characters that, again, reward you for playing well, and it's very weird. It's a very weird character. So if you don't know, Pakko's a tank and he uses snow to fight. I feel like that's a really interesting concept, and he's able to buff allies or buff himself. It's very interesting, but like every Pakko that I've ever played against had no clue how to play Pakko, and rightfully so. The character is weird. It's a very weird character, but it's a good character. I want to say that Pakko probably is going to be a B for me. And again, I really, and that's probably on the back of, well, no, Pakko's not necessarily bad. It's just he's hard. He's weird. You know, I'm going to say Pakko's B. And the reason why I say he's B is because, again, he's very strange. He's not your typical, I run in there and I just sit and I tank. You have to kind of like bob and weave, and you have to really know what you're doing. If you're a good Pakko, I think he goes to A. But if you're an average Pakko, he's B. And if you're a bad Pakko, actually not even an average. If you are an average or a poor Pakko player, you're probably going to be C. And you're not going to see results. The character is just that underwhelming when you don't know what you're doing. And so it is what it is. I love Pakko, but no bias here. This is a tier list. I understand what I'm going for in terms of the tier list, and Pakko just doesn't meet the standards of anything. But I do feel like if you know how to play that character, the character is an A tank in my opinion, or an A frontliner in my opinion. But as it stands, B is what it is. The next character that we have is Ramsay. Ramsay is an S tier character. The reason why I say this is because the character just has it all. Very good character, and even if you're not that great with him, he still works. And if you are great with him, character's just nuts. Like, he's really, really good. Actually, no, I'm not gonna put him at S. I lied. I'm gonna put him at A, but if you are a good Ramsay, he's definitely an S. If you're an average Ramsay or a mediocre Ramsay, he's still A. But like, if you are a good Ramsay, he is S. The character has a lot of mobility, has a lot of damage potential. Like, he's insane. If you become insanely good at him, you will be rewarded with a lot. He's so cool as well. And so, I mean, he poisons, he has stamina, like things to allow him to be able to move a lot easier. He has cooldown resets and whatnot. A very, very solid character. And even if you're not that great at him, as I said before, he will still work. That's why I think Ramsay deserves it to be at A. The next character that we have is Rutger. Now, Rutger is interesting. Rutger has kind of been in that same situation as Pakko, except he's easier to play than Pakko. But you have to know what you're doing for it to work. And Rutger is... This one's going to be hard, because I've noticed Rutger has a problem, and this is referring to Clash. Rutger has a problem where he kind of falls off. And when I say falls off, he becomes useless. Rutger is really good early. He's very explosive, but like toward the end of the game, Rutger is like falls off hard. There's not really like much he can do, and he's kind of not team help. He's not helpful with the team. It's like he's like part Margrave and like part Lord Nox, where it's like you have the damage early, but then later you become Margrave and maybe become tanky, but like it doesn't do anything. So I think this character, I feel like I'm going to be hated for this, but I think this character's a B. But I think he deserves to be in front of Pakko. If you're a good Rutger, he's definitely A. But towards late game, you're going to start being a B. The character, like I said, just doesn't have much later. He's a very selfish tank, and usually there's no place in games like this for a selfish tank. Yes, you can do things to help your team, but at the end of the day, it's a very selfish tank, and it's a very skill-based tank, and if you don't play it properly, or if your team doesn't understand how to play against it, then it's going to be bad. You have to actually be really good at Rutger to even make him work, and that's one of the things that hesitates me from putting him at A or S, is because he is a skill, like, you're not playing this character unless you're good, period. And so I think he deserves to be at B. And then he just like falls off too. So even if you are a good Rutger player, and I've seen some explosive Rutger players, it doesn't even matter. Character just does nothing later. You'll just get outclassed by whatever tank like Pakko or the Margrave or Lord Not. You'll just get outclassed because they do things better for their team rather than Rutger does. Rutger's just more of a distraction guy. So, you know, that's just what I think about this character. Really cool design though. That's the thing. It's like a lot of these characters have great designs, and I'm not even like beating on their designs. Their designs are great, but just the functionality, the actuality in a match, there's some issues here and there. The next character that we have is Uncle Sven. Now, Uncle Sven, I like Uncle Sven. Uncle Sven is hard to play properly, but the cool thing about Uncle Sven is like, he's a potion type of character, and you know people that do potions and whatnot, they need to mix their chemicals in order to make the best potion. That's how his gameplay is. You literally like play the game while mixing potions. It's insane. You throw that one on the ground and you pop another one and it does something different than it's really cool. That's a really cool character. Healing is great, and honestly, even if you're not that good at Uncle Sven, he's great, and if you're really good at Uncle Sven, he's broken. Not in a bad way. I will say though, the problem that comes with Uncle Sven is that you have to be aware of where your teammates are standing, because a lot of the times you'll see Uncle Sven players throw the potion somewhere to like heal a teammate or like make them jump or whatever, or even damage an enemy, and they'll miss because it's like, not only is he lobbing it, it's not a straight projectile, but also it's an AoE on the ground, which means you need to really anticipate the character being there when it lands, basically. That's a lot to do, but I think overall this character definitely deserves to be an A. If the little thing on the ground wasn't a problem, then you know he'd be S. Now I know there is a buff that you can put on him that allows people in the circle to heal even if they leave the circle, or to be buffed even if they leave the circle. But still, that doesn't get around the issue, and I think that would definitely help. Not saying it needs to be changed though. I think I like him as he is. If anything, maybe buff nerf numbers, whatever, but I don't actually think it's a bad character. I don't think he's broken. I think he's really cool, designed really well, and does his job well. It's just, I don't think he's an an S material because the difficulty setbacks. But obviously, if you're a good Uncle Sven, this character's nasty. He's an S tier, period. Matter of fact, just for that, I'm actually going to put him in the front of everybody. That's how much of an S tier pick I think he is. But remember, we're thinking about how simple the character is to use, how straightforward the character is to use, and the average skill level that it takes for that character to actually be useful in a match. So I think he deserves to be at A. The next character that we have is T-Mat. Now, T-Mat is similar to Imani in terms of like being a sniper, but it's not really a sniper. It's just a long-range shot character. The thing about T-Mat is they have a lot of damage for consistent use of abilities and consistent landing of shots. So as an example, you can do more damage to someone that's on fire, but again, you have to do it consistently to get the most out of your damage. You also have something where like the more you shoot a target, the stronger you get in terms of stacks. So again, it's really like rewarding consistent behavior. And that's one of the things that makes this kind of difficult to judge, because that is a skill you're gonna have to use, and each map actually behaves differently. Some maps you can't be consistent with how you play because it's so claustrophobic, or because it's so much distance spread, whatever you have. And so this one's a little bit interesting to rate. But the thing that I will say T-Mat has is a free get out of jail card. You just turn around, press a button, they are gone, and you really can't catch them. That's what makes this character a little bit better, but it's kind of been the same thing as Imani. Now I will say the difference between him and Imani, or her and Imani, it's a robot. The difference between that is the fact that you have lock-on projectiles. So when you use your L2, I believe it's your L2, or it's your L1. I think it's your L2. But when you use your L2, it has a lock-on feature and it shoots rockets that way. So in that regard, you kind of get away from the snipe factor. With that in mind, I'm still gonna put it at B, but the reason being is, again, because it only rewards that consistent playstyle. You're gonna have to be good at the character for it to work. So in that regard, it's with everyone else but Beckett. Beckett has no A. Beckett is just B. But the other 4 characters in B right now, they definitely are A characters if you get good at them. I think T-Mat is good, but only good if you're good. And you know, that's not enough to just put it at A. That's not enough to put something at S. Again, we're focusing on the average player base. We're focusing on everyone as a whole. in my opinion, that character's not that great if you can't consistently do what the character is asking you to do. The next character that we have is Tripp. Now, Tripp, I really like Tripp. I really like Tripp. Cool design, just best character ever. My voice cracked. That's how excited I am. Tripp is dope. I really love this character design. I think that Tripp could probably use a little bit more damage, but like the character design, the abilities that she uses, just everything is really cool about this character. I'm gonna say Tripp is at A. The reason being is I feel like assassins in this game are relatively strong, and I actually was going to do a video separate of this video, so subscribe if you wanted to see that, where I talk more about assassins and why I feel like they're pretty strong. But I think that she's really good. Now, if you are an insane Tripp player, she still, I don't think, can break S. She's just not that great in terms of her functionality. But if you are an average or oak, you know what? I feel like I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I'm dropping her to B. If you're a good Tripp player, she's A. But if you are a average or bad Tripp player, she's B. Actually, she's C if you are a bad player. Let me be honest. And so that's kind of where I'm going with that one. Again, you know, this is my personal tier list. This is my personal experience of playing with hundreds of hours on this game. I really think that Tripp is just, she needs, like, the kit is amazing. I just think she needs a little bit boost in some damage numbers, and she's gonna be all right. In Rush, but in Clash, she definitely needs a little help. So I'm gonna put her at B. Like I said, if you're a good Tripp player, she's easily A. But again, average player base, probably gonna be a B. Next we have Tyto The Swift. And boy, does that name actually hit home in being accurate. Tyto is actually a very insane character, and this is the only assassin in the game right now that doesn't have invisibility, at least that I can remember. So there's a lot of tools to help this character because it doesn't have like the invisibility thing. There's a lot of agility to this character, which means it's very, very hard to catch. I think he's definitely an S character. Very hard to catch, very easy to win. If you ever played League of Legends and you've ever played Garen, you know Garen's very easy, right? Tyto is Garen, but with movement speed. Garen already has movement speed, so Tyto is literally just a tank assassin. Realistically though, I think it's okay to have an assassin that's easy, but I think Tyto just does just way too much damage right now. And if they can nerf him, it'd be better. I think that's rough. I'm gonna say he's above. That's rough, man. That's rough. He's a little too strong damage-wise. I think kit-wise, being able to get in and get out and run away, I think that's fine, but I don't think he should be able to do so much damage with the ability to, like, really be hard to catch at the same time. I guess you can stop him from spinning, but I don't think there's a lot of characters in this game that have the ability to crowd control somebody so easily, and so that kind of offsets it. Like, if almost every character had a way to stun, Tyto would just be lower on the tier list because Tyto can't do damage. But right now, you really gonna need someone to pay attention to where Tyto is, and because this game is so explosive, because this game is so spammy, it's very easy to just kind of use all of your stuff and not pay attention. I think once we have a ranked mode, a lot of these tier lists might actually adjust, because then you're putting like good players with good players, and you know, and we can really see the strengths and weaknesses of some of these characters. But for right now, I think Tyto is just he just wreaks havoc on the game right now. And a good Tyto just demolishes the game. An average Tyto still demolishes the game. It's very rough to play against a Tyto if you're not paying attention. So that's where I think deserves to be an A. Really good character, really good design, but I think the numbers need to be adjusted a little bit lower. The next character that we have is Vadasi. Now this character is actually really, really good, but I don't see a lot of players play this character. I think one of the main reasons is because this character is just a straight up healer. They can do damage too, don't get me wrong, but a lot of their methods for damage is really intertwined with their ability to buff themselves and buff their teammates. And so you really are putting a lot of the power behind your playstyle through others. She's not defenseless, she does damage, but just not to the extent as everyone else. And if you are gonna do damage, you're gonna basically suck your own life force to do more damage. So you're gonna basically take your own HP to do more damage. Really interesting concept, but I definitely think she's a slept on character. I'm gonna say that she is A, And she's easily S if you know how to play her well. And she's A if you just know how to play her average or mediocrely. Because you could just be a heal bot and just like walk around and heal people the entire time and you still do justice. It's very hard to kill someone through her heal. Seriously, it's that strong. But a great Vadasi player will smack a game all over the place, all up in the face, just easy clap cheeks. So I definitely think that's a slept on character, and I definitely think that character is very strong. The next character we have is Voden, and I'm gonna say it right now, turn off the video because you're about to hate me. Voden is actually insane of a character. The problem is Voden is in the same spot as all the other characters in B aside from Beckett. I'm gonna put him, Voden is hard, dude. I'm gonna put Voden, I mean, he's not that hard. That's kind of nonsense. Nah, Voden ain't that hard, but he's hard. But he's not. That's rough. This is a hard one. Because even at the simplest play style, Voden is impactful. But it's not for his basic attacks with arrows. It's for the other abilities that he uses. It's very easy to use those. But if we're talking about the whole kit and how straightforward it is, it's not a very straightforward kit. You're gonna need to get games under your belt to make this character work. However, when you make this character work, this character is just busted, insane, in a good way. But I don't think it warrants an A. If you're good, it's an A character. But if you're average or bad, it's gonna definitely be a B character. It doesn't do much. It's literally in the same category as all these characters right here. All of them, except Beckett. They're great if you know how to play them, otherwise they're kind of lackluster. But that means a lot, and that says a lot, because that means the game is low-key kind of balanced. If there are characters that are busted only when you are good, that's actually a really good sign of balancing in the game. Again, we haven't seen ranked though. That is the mode that's gonna pit good players against good players, and players are gonna understand the intricacies of each character. When you play ranked, usually there are mains, and when you main something for thousands of games, you can really see how broken something is by seeing how strong or how good a player is with that. So I definitely am looking forward to ranked so I can get a more in-depth, because I don't play thousands on each character. That's impossible. In my mind, I think Voden is actually very strong, but again, you're gonna have to know how to use that character. The next character we have is Wu. I'm gonna put Wu at A. We're just gonna put it next to Ramsay. Wu and Ramsay are kind of in the same position, where it's like, yeah, they require skill, don't get me wrong, but if you suck with them, or if you're not familiar with them, they'll be B. If you're an average player that actually understands them at a basic level, they'll be A. And then if you are just insane, they'll be S, like easily S if you're insane on them. So that kind of fits in my opinion with how it works. They're very good characters. Again, every character in this game is really solid. It really is. It's just some of them don't do things unless you do like 8 other things for the character to work. The next character we have is Xenobia. Xenobia or Xenobia? I think it's Xenobia, but I always call her Xenobia for some reason. But Xenobia, I think she's definitely an S tier character. The reason why I say this is because she's very straightforward and very easy to use. That's the same thing that I said in my other video talking about which characters are which. But I think that she's just very straightforward, very easy to use, very effective. The AoE is massive. Like, that literally is a character where I said before, a simple character. You pick up, you play, you just smash all your buttons, job done. That's what Xenobia is. And on top of that, she has an ability to, well, it's not even an ability. Her attack for shooting, you don't even need to lock onto the character. You can kind of be around the character and it'll still work. It's a constant beam of damage. And so I think she deserves an S spot. Not because she's overloaded or needs a nerf, in my opinion, at least right now. Again, we don't have ranked, but just because, you know, she's good. The next character we have is Zandora. She's like hidden. I'm not gonna lie, she's low-key hidden. A lot of people say she's bad. A lot of people think she's trash. A lot of people don't play her. She's actually hidden. She's hidden. I'm gonna say she's definitely an A. She's B if you don't know what you're doing, and she's S if you know exactly what you're doing. And then she's like average. She's A if you understand the basic to her. I'm gonna put her kind of back here though, because she's not really like high A. She's kind of like mediocre A, but she's definitely in that position to where she's slept on. She's slept on, 100% slept on. She has the ability to buff her team. She has the ability to buff herself. She actually pumps out insane amount of damage. this character is very strong and very slept on. The next character that we have is Ezren Ghal. Now, Ezren Ghal is actually a really cool character. I call him Karthus. If you guys ever played League of Legends, it's basically Karthus that has lifesteal. But I think the character is great. I think the character is like actually hidden as well. I don't want to put him at S because he has a lot of disadvantages of being a character. One of them is just mobility. Actually in damage, the fact that you need to land your shots for it to work, but it's very hidden. I think this is the same spot with Zandora. It's like, if you're good, he's S, but he's like low S, if anything, because of the fact that he has those hindrances. And I think in high elo, when ranked comes, he's not going to be that viable, or you're going to have to be a god with that character because positioning is going to be key. He's very slow. Even with his movement speed buff, he's still very slow. And that definitely is going to be a character that needs to see ranked before we can really, really judge it. The next character that we have is HK206. Easily S tier, not in a bad way. I think it's, well, no, I lied. You know, HK is kind of busted. The thing about HK is like, HK a little too tanky, but he does a lot of damage, but it's not a bad thing. But it's like a bad thing. It's really hard to say. Again, I think a lot of these characters need to have that ranked test to really, really see what they're about, especially because, you know, again, a lot of people will play thousands of games of these characters, and you'll really find like the hidden OP strats for each character after they've played thousands or 2,000 or 3,000 games. But I think HK206 just kind of like baseline, very strong character. Not really much to say. On the same length of Xenobia. Just very easy to play, very straightforward. You press the buttons, boom, bam, shamalam, they all dead. That's kind of how this character works, and he's tanky. The last character that we have is going to be Kajir, but they're not on the list. And there might be another list that has him on it, but I didn't even pay attention to it until now. So Kajir is going to be, in my opinion, S. I think he's in S right now just for the simple fact that there's a invisibility thing, and I don't know if it's a bug, but they haven't fixed it if it is. But I've talked about this before. Basically, Kajir has the ability to be invisible permanently. If you do not dash with Kajir, just keep pressing the button and let it time out, press hold, let it time out. He basically could just stay invisible the entire time. Yes, you could be hurt. Yes, you could be shot at, but the character is very, very, very strong. And the fact that you could teleport and slow people, and it's a very strong character and definitely deserves to be at S. Yes, he's a little bit difficult to use. So if you don't know how to use Kajir, he's going to be A, in my opinion. But if you know how to use him at a basic level, or you're extremely good with Kajir, easy S, easy S. That is my take on the tier list. Again, we haven't seen ranked, so we don't really know how all these characters will fare against each other. We basically have a little bit of meta in terms about like how many characters you need, like 2 DPS, 2 supports, 1 tank, or 2 DPS, 1 melee DPS, 1 support, 1 tank. You know, we have like these different types of formations, but we really don't have anything that's like actually something that works. And I think because it's similar to the old Gigantic, people run kind of the same stuff, but we still don't know if that's going to hold up in the new ranked mode that we're going to have. So we are going to need to see that come to light first. But this is just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about the tier list, what you think about what are your picks? What character would you put at S? What character would you say is just horrible? Let me know, but thank you guys for watching. There will be more Gigantic content to come, so if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that because we will be doing more on this channel with Gigantic. Until next time, you know what I always say. Thank you guys for doing what? Popping often. Will often.